everybody. Welcome to the newest episode of the Taco Tuesday podcast. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Jake.
And as you may have noticed, we've been away for a couple weeks. We maintained radio silence for a little bit and took some time for ourselves.
Well, what happened was we quit, and then we unquit. There was just an outpouring from our fans asking us where we had gone, and we thought, we can't do this.
We can't leave y'all hanging. No, if anything, it was a snafu on my part. I tried to record an episode of us on our trip to Iowa City, or to Cedar Rapids, excuse me, and the recording kind of shit the bed. So we tried to do it the next week, and lo and behold, the flu hit my house pretty goddamn hard. So
like a goddamn tornado,
like a flu-nado.
Flu-nado.
So here we are. What didn't we talk about over the last 2 weeks?
What didn't we talk about? I saw
that.
Hey,
shit!
come on.
It's not even Tuesday, bro.
Somebody's a comedian.
Oh snap! Wordplay. No, so our recording up to Cedar Rapids, we started to talk about the Aziz Ansari. Well, what would you call that?
It was like a sexual misconduct allegation.
Yeah.
We were just so we had two other comedians, Todd Wilhite and Charles Taylor,
and we'll have to have them back on the show officially to make up for my recording snafu.
Yeah. But so we were 2 weeks ago, this was when this came out, and basically she was saying that Aziz came on to her and was not reading nonverbal cues, that were supposed to let him know that she was uncomfortable with the encounter, and she said it was the worst day of her life, and a bunch of people, including a bunch of women, said that it was a little misguided and that she was taking advantage of a movement for... I don't know for what, but basically the consensus we came to in the car was that it was not really what they considered sexual misconduct, and I don't know how I feel about it personally, but I know that a lot of people, including a lot of women, have said that it's not, that it wasn't sexual abuse, that it was a really awkward encounter that she should have spoke up about if she was that uncomfortable. If it was really the worst day of her life, that she should have said something instead of just, hoping that he would read her nonverbal cues.
Right. Well, with that, rule number one, if somebody else says no to something, don't push the issue. That's not something that, like, oh, she said no, maybe I can talk her into it. Or how about just accept the no?
Right.
That should be first and foremost rule number one. Rule number two is that not just from the woman's side, but from the male side as well, from both sides, both should be able to say no without, recourse, without having to feel like they're wrong for saying no, or to be felt like they're the asshole for saying no. Because, and I say both sides because I'm not so naive to think that there's never been an occurrence where the male will say no and the woman will keep pushing the issue. Maybe not even just sex, but in general.
Yeah.
So I'd say both sides.
Oh, I've dealt with some really aggressive females that, and it was just like,
Yeah, and I don't want it... I say it that way because I don't want it to be like, well, the woman should be able to and because I know that there's going to be people out there that say, well, what if this or that? What if she feels she can't because of this, or she feels that way? I understand that. I understand that there's different... there's different, bumps in the road that come up, whether it's your past or your present or whatever that causes you to make the decisions that you do in the present.
Right.
But at the same time, I think that's not just from the woman's side, but the male side as well. On both sides, as adults, we should all be able to say no and not feel like, or not be made to feel like we're assholes for saying no.
Correct. Yep.
Or not in the wrong for saying no. And I think from everything I've heard about the story, it definitely, I don't know, it came off as if she didn't want to, or she was afraid of like what he would come back with or what recourse she'd face if she told him no, like directly.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So in a lot of the stories that we've read about, like the Louis C.K. story, right? The women that he did those things to were women that were on tour with him, that were like his feature acts or like on his TV show. And so there was an incentive for them to oblige to his wishes, and it makes sense that it would be harder for them to say no to that because they felt like their jobs were on the line. Right. In this scenario, it was a girl that he went on a date with, and then I think there was a follow-up date, if I remember correctly. But it was not like,
from what I heard,
she
it sounded
like
she was a photographer.
Oh, she was a photographer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's in the business,
right?
But I don't know if she faced any recourse for like if she'd tell him no, that he wouldn't, be in any of her pictures, or they wouldn't work together. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, and that's kind of, and I wasn't there. None of us were there, so we don't really know. But
right.
I think,
and that's the difficult thing, is that all we have to go off of is his word and hers, and I don't know. I can't just accept, well, this story is true because he said something, or this story is true because she said something. I'm one of those people that kind of, I don't know, I doubt something is real until I like see it for myself.
Right.
But I mean, I know that is that's shitty and hurtful to say to her if her story is true.
Well, I don't think it's wrong to, suspend belief until you get more information,
Yeah.
I mean, because you're not saying one way or that. You're not saying that she's a liar or that she's right. You're just saying, hey, I'd like to get a little bit more information.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, that girl doesn't give a shit what Brandon and Jake McDowell think. But I do think it's, the important part about it is that in having the conversation, we're opening ourselves up to, possibly criticism from people who listen and say, no, you should believe any type of woman, or, say, no, I think you're right. And then what we're doing, I hope, is that we're opening up a dialogue for people to say, this is a better way to do it, or this is what I would do. And then you broaden your perspective. And that's important because I think in the past, a lot of women have just felt like, especially men, but just in general, people didn't care about what was happening to them when it came to this kind of stuff.
Right.
And that's why, you'll hear men who don't seem to care much, and they'll say, well, why didn't they say something when it first happened? Well, that's why, because they never felt like anybody would care or would listen or believe them in the first place.
Right. And if that's the case, then sure. I mean, if the story's true, the story's true, whether 7 years have passed or 7 minutes,
Right.
I don't know. It's just, it definitely, it sucks to see all these things come out about your heroes, but if your heroes are shitty people, you need to know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would like to think that I'm not a perfect person. I'm okay at best. But if somebody had an issue with me, that they'd let me know. Anytime, not just sexually, but in anything that I guess I've been urging somebody else to do, or I guess the word for it is pressuring somebody into doing.
Yeah.
If anybody's told me no, then I've tried my best to respect that.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess I don't see
and that's a weird thing, because I get really not offended, but I don't like when people push me, but I do appreciate it sometimes, because sometimes you need a little gentle nudging, you know.
Yeah.
But that line between like the gentle nudging and pressuring, you know, where it feels uncomfortable, it's hard for anybody to kind of tell, you know.
Right.
As long as I think, you know, it goes back to like intentions. As long as somebody's intentions are good, you know, then there's probably not going to be a problem. But
right. Well, and that's the other thing too. Is like I'm not talking about like talking somebody into stabbing somebody else or anything like that. I'm thinking like, you know, try this food. No, I don't really. Come on, one time. No, I'm good. All right, don't try it. You know, hey, you want to go laser tag? I'm not really feeling like it. Come on, everybody's going. All right, you know, like that kind of thing. Yeah. Hell, I think even if it came to something like bungee jumping, I'm such a pansy that if somebody was like, "Come on, bungee jump, just do it one time," I'm like, nah, I'm not doing it. I'm not gonna shit my pants in the sky. No, can't do it. So if somebody else, if I've told somebody else like, you should bungee jump, and they're like, nah, I'd be like, I respect that.
Yeah.
like, you know, I wouldn't want anybody else to like urge me more than that with something like that. If it was like a food, I have been talked into trying a food,
right?
You know, but even if it's something as minuscule as facing a fear, you know, doing bungee jumping, I'm like, all right, no, I'm not going to push any further than that. So even if it came to something like that, I'd be like, no, I'm not going to do much more pressure than that. So if sex came down the pipe, I was like, you want to? No, not really. I understand. I respect that. Let's fucking move over here. So I don't see the need or the urge to, like, me personally anyway, to pressure somebody into a situation more than that. Right. But I understand also that for them it's probably a power thing. It's oh shit, I could talk this person into this. Oh my, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. They're, you know, and like this is my experience, like with manipulation. But you know, as an addict, when I was using, I used the tactic of manipulation often. You know, and it was. You know, for what I deemed, you know, kind of my own survival. But looking back on it, it's a shitty thing. You know, in the world of drugs, kind of all things go. The problem, though, is that like innocent people get involved. You know, like my family had to deal with me like lying to them and pretending that I needed, you know, stuff that I didn't really need. You know, so I get it. Like, and that's kind of the shitty thing in all this is that, you know, you're lying to somebody at their detriment for your own benefit, right? And that's the shitty thing.
Well, I mean, I think everybody for the most part has read her story or read the snippets of her story to know kind of what she's claiming happened. And I think also with that, though, people have seen the fact that he's kind of come out and been like, you know, I'm sorry if you felt that way. Like, you know, it wasn't my intention at all. Like, I thought we had a good time.
Right.
You know, it's, I don't know. It kind of paints him into a gray area. It's like, was he an asshole and didn't realize he was being an asshole?
Yeah.
Or was everything okay and you know, she's making it bigger than it had to be, and he's surprised by it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, there's no that's something that they have to deal with. I guess, you know, there's always more to a story than you know, and hopefully, you know, this is just another thing that helps people kind of be aware that, you know, sometimes, you know, even if she is like, you know, maybe exaggerating or something. Even if it gets the conversation headed in, like, you know, men and women need to be more aware of nonverbal cues because those are real things, you know. Then that's you know the silver lining of the story. I hope that it wasn't the worst night of her life, but I don't know. I'm not a fucking doctor.